So welcome to Faith and Calm. This is going to be edition 72, which I think is a good number, right? 72?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's Rosh Hashanah is coming up. So here it is, a chance to find a new you, a new relationship with God, and a new way of looking at the entire world. And that's going to be the theme of for tonight. At least I think I've got a few things to say about that, because I always listen to around this time of year, I'll advertise it. Rabbi Manis Friedman has a sequence of short videos, about 5-10 minutes, one each day, for each day of Elul. It's called The King in the Field. And the first time I listened to it, I said, I never knew what it meant to be a Jew. All of a sudden, now I see a whole different way of understanding what it means, who I am, and my viewpoint on the world. And so every year I turn that on again, because you need to get to every year. Life is sort of like a spiral staircase. Every year you come back to the same place in time, Rosh Hashanah, but at a higher level. Every year we have to come back and we have to revisit what did we do in the last year, and then accelerate it to a whole new level. And that's actually, that was Tanya today. It was talking about, it says that God renews the world every year from year to year, from the end of the year to the new year. Alter says, I don't understand. God's always involved in the world. So the answer is because a new energy comes into the world every year. So we were going into a new year, 5782, and that particular energy, that particular life has never been in this world before. So we don't just go back to the same season again, but there's something going to be different on a new level, a new kind of vitality in our personal lives and in the rest of the world that has never been revealed before, because God doesn't have to repeat himself. So next year is going to be really a different, completely on a whole new different level. And those, we sort of need that. We didn't expect the last year to be what it was. It was a different world, a different kind of world. Well, welcome to the new world. It's going to be different, even more different. And of course, it's going to be good. That's why we have the traditional greeting for this entire month. I don't know if you know this, but you're supposed to, whenever you write a letter or whenever you greet somebody, you're supposed to say, Siva, V'chasima, L'shana Tova, U'Masuka, which means that you should be written and inscribed for a good and sweet new year. And everyone's
We're just supposed to say Lashana Tov.
Yeah.
Yes,
you
right.
Can say that too.
Perfect. So you know why he says both a sweet and a good new year? Because not everything that's sweet is good, right? And not everything that's good is necessarily sweet. Sometimes things are good for you, but it's very difficult. It's very harsh. It's very, it's good, but it's very, not so sweet. So we wish people to have both a good year and a sweet year, that it should be, in other words, that the goodness should be a revealed sweetness. And you should feel that sweetness in the coming year. So I want to start out with that. Kasiva v'chasima l'shachshin tova masuka to everyone here. And we should all have a sweet new year.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I finished with the end of my talk. I didn't even get this. So in 3 days from now, it's going to be the Baal Shem Tov's birthday. Chai Elul. 2.5. Almost, it's almost the 16th. What is special about the Baal Shem Tov? And partially, this class is about what the Baal Shem Tov made as an innovation in Judaism. He was really a revolutionary, and even now, 250, 300 years after his life, we're really just beginning to discover how radically new and important his way of teaching Judaism is. Why? Because, again, coming from Rabbi Friedman's talk, he did a bunch of man in the street interviews, and he asked people, says, why are you Jewish? What's the point of your Judaism? What are you doing? And the various very religious people, they would reply back, and they said, well, the reason I do all these things, why I do the mitzvahs, is because I expect that if I work really hard, after I pass away, God will give me a very nice place in Gan Eden. I'll get a nice place in Gan Eden. That's why I do it. Because if I don't do it, it's going to be very bad for me. So I better do it. Otherwise, I'm in big trouble. And then he went on and on like that and so forth. And Baal Shem Tov said, what is wrong with you? That is so cold. That is so businesslike. It's so off-putting, which is probably why most Jews in America and in the world, if you ask them, are you religious? They'll say, no. Because I don't like that whole idea, which is because Judaism is not supposed to be religion. And this is really a religious way of looking at it. And Judaism is not supposed to be a religion. What do I mean by this? Why is Judaism not a religion? You thought Judaism was a religion. Judaism is not a religion. A religion means that you do certain things for God because you think that in return, you're going to get something from him. That's a business. You do, you work, you get paid. You want to have love, some religion, some people, a certain religion says, then I want love. So therefore, I worship God because I want love. Others say, God is powerful, almighty. He's powerful. So they serve God because they want power. That's not about God. That's about getting things from God. When you turn Judaism to religion, you really aren't caring about God. Your focus is on you, right? I want certain things. I want health. I want intelligence. I want wisdom. I want a good new year and so forth like that. So therefore, I do certain things that I don't really care about because somebody else asked it, and therefore I expect to get paid back. It's cold, it's indifferent, and you really aren't caring about the other person at all. Think of it in a relationship. How sad that is if you're doing things for the other person, and you don't even know if they don't. It's not because of them. You don't want to get closer to them. You don't care about them, and you don't care about the relationship. All you care about is what you can get out of the relationship. Well, somebody comes to you and says, I want to be close to you, and I want to have a relationship with you, but I really don't care about you. All I really care about is getting some things out of you. And that's not a relationship. There's nothing there. And you should run away from such a thing. You really should, because that's not about you. It's not about who you are. You turned into an object that people can get something out of you. There's no closeness there. There's no warmth there. There's no intimacy there. So what did the Baal Shem Tov tell us? He said, it's not that way. This has got the wrong religion. And it's a whole change in looking at how the whole thing is. He says, you know what? God, he really wants to be close to you, and he cares about you, and he wants to have a relationship with you. So how do you have a relationship with someone else? You know how you find a relationship with somebody else? You find out what they need, what they're lacking in their life. You find out if you can help them, if you can give that to them. When you care more about them and their stuff, and you get excited about them more than what about you, that's a relationship. That's closeness. I stop thinking about myself and I'm saying, wow, it's important to you. I care about that. I care about you. I care about your stuff. That's how I can get much closer to you. So one of the strange stories that Rabbi Friedman tells along these lines is, he says, what would it mean if not have that relationship? He gives this story of a mother who tells her son, he says, listen, son, I want you to get closer to me. I want to feel a relationship with you. So you know what? Every morning I ask him to make some nice hot tea for me and deliver it to me. And he does this for 20 years. And after 20 years, he finds out that his mother doesn't like tea, didn't care about tea, and poured the tea on the ground. Didn't care for tea. Was he serving? Was he doing anything for his mother? Was he getting closer? No. That's the way to get a person out of your life. It means they don't care about you at all. I don't care about you. You know what? It's like telling somebody, he says, go out and watch the grass grow. Come back and tell me if the grass is growing. That's pushing a person away from your life. So the point is that the way you get closer to a person is you find out what they need, what they really need. So God does need things from us. He made himself dependent on us. He created us. He put us in this world, and we are part of his mission because God created the world for a purpose. And we are part of that purpose. And he needs that purpose done. And if it doesn't happen, he's miserable. That's why it's so important to know and care and try and understand, what does God need from me? And then find out, what does he need? And can I do that? And when I find out what I think I can do for him, then I can get closer to him, because that's how you get closer. A person who tells you, listen, I need this, and I'm actually telling you what it is, that is an invitation for closeness. I need this. This is you. This is me. This is who I am. This is my deepest needs. These are the things that are important to me. And you hear that from someone else, they share that with you. That's an invitation to get close to them, because now you can actually be part of a relationship with them. They need you. You're important in their life. The same thing with God. He tells us, hey, I need certain things. What does he need? I don't know. It's strange because it's unique to him. Just as when you get close to another person, you find out that they have things that you would never have thought of important, but that's because you're relating to somebody else other than you. If it's something that's important to you, then you're only getting close to yourself. But if you find out it's something that's unique to them, that they need it, now you can actually get close to the other person. You can get close to that otherness, and you can actually become one with that other person.
You sound like you're talking in circles.
In a certain way, I think I am. I'm also trying to give you maybe a story would be better, and because sometimes clear up from philosophy to ideas, we have to make it in terms of a story. I'm going to try and push to see if the story works for you. There was a family from Israel named the Hasofars. They grew up in a very, very anti-religious kibbutz in Israel. And he decided, that he wanted to become a statistician. And the good universities were not in Israel. So he went off to a university in a place called Tasmania. I don't know if you know where Tasmania is. It's a small island. It's off of Australia, Tasmanian Devils, and that's it's called Tasmania. So he left Israel. He didn't say anything special about Israel. It's another country. I happen to be born here, but he didn't feel anything special about him or his Jewishness or any special connection to the land. He went off with his family to Tasmania. He got to Tasmania. He went to the university, and there was a small Jewish community there in Tasmania. Nobody religious, but they had, like 30 people. And they had a chazan who used to used to daven from pray every Friday night. They had services, and he used to read the Torah. And this guy had no connection with it, and he never decided, we don't want to have anything to do with the Jewish community, so he never went there. One day they knocked on his door, and they said, we need you. Why? Because our husband has left us, and you're the only person in this entire island, Tasmania, that know Hebrew, and therefore you know how to read the Torah, you know how to read the prayer books, and you should be our leader. He says, I don't have anything to do with Judaism. I'm not caring about Judaism. I'm not really interested in Judaism. They say, but you're the one, because we don't know anything. At least you know Hebrew. So he convinced himself, and he said, okay, fine. I'll do it out of helping people, but it's nothing about religion. And he gets there, and he's doing this after a while. And he's thinking this is interesting, but he and his wife. But after a while, he says, nobody cares about Judaism here. This is so far away from Israel and so far away from God, and there's nothing about it here in this whole country. And he made a conclusion. He said, if I don't get a message from God within a month, I'm going to go join, the dominant community here, because they're going to accept me, and I'm going to be part of the Catholic, the Protestant, whatever it was, religion there. At least I'll be part. I won't be viewed as a weirdo and an outsider. And he makes this decision. And a few days later, all of a sudden, he sees this religious rabbi with a beard and a hat, and coat and everything, walking around in Tasmania. He never saw anything like that ever since Israel. And he says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I just came here to find Jews." And he started talking. And all of a sudden, he realizes, God sent him somebody. All of a sudden, somebody's here, and he starts explaining to me what the importance of the Judaism was. Years later, his daughter was talking to the daughter of this rabbi. The rabbi's name was Chaim Gutnick, and his daughter's name was Hasofar. And they were talking, and they said, "Where do you come from?" And the daughter said, "I come from Tasmania." He says, "Oh, I can tell you a story. My father once, he got a letter from the Rebbe, and he's saying, I want you to go visit the island of Tasmania. I know you're very busy here on the mainland of Australia, but I want you to go and see what you can accomplish there." So Rabbi Gutnick just went there. He had no idea if he would find anybody, any Jews, anybody to talk to, but he was sent by the Lubavitch Rebbe, and he came across this Hasofer family. And this Hasofer family, eventually, they started learning. They returned to their Judaism. They started keeping mitzvahs. They sent their kids to yeshiva and stuff like that. And it all started from this one little thing, because there's this thing in a Jew. It says it's not about me. It's about connecting. And the way I connect is the way that is called relationships. And relationships is what life is about. It's not taking care of my own needs. It's about thinking about someone else. And so the relationship that we have with other people is really all a reflection of our relationship with God. Because when we have a good, healthy relationship with God, and we know what that's about, we know that it's about serving Him, doing things for Him that He needs. It's not necessarily about thinking about me. Then you actually have much better relationships with your children, with your siblings, and with your parents, and with your spouse, and with everyone else. So the two things go together. One follows the other. Realizing, that all of our life is a relationship. It's about putting one's ego aside and really tuning in to other people and into what God, and talking to Him and finding out what He wants. And then you actually become part of something bigger than yourself. You're part of a bigger story than your little own story about your own issues and your own needs and so forth. You become part of a story of the whole Jewish people and of the whole of God's creation. And you're fulfilling part of the purpose of creation. And that, I think, is a interesting and useful perspective to start the new year. In the new year, we have to say, you know what? God, I'm open to you, what you need. I'm not thinking about what I need. I know you'll take care of me. You've taken care of me my whole life. I'm still here. Everything has miraculously happened. I haven't had a stroke. I haven't had a heart attack. I haven't had cancer. I haven't had this, and many other people my age already have had that and so forth. And it means that you care about me and you're going to take care of my needs. I can't really control those pieces of my life. So I'm putting myself in your hands, and I'm putting my trust in you. But you know what? I'm here because I'm part of your mission. And therefore I have the right and the ability to ask you to take care of my needs. And with that, I'm going to turn over the mic and the camera to my wife, hopefully who'll give you another way of looking at this whole story. Shalom Meshudas.
Thank you, Yukas.
Thank you.
Yasher Koach. Very nice message.
Shalom Meshudas. She's right here. I am ready.
Okay, good. I'm ready to take over.
Okay. Okay, good.
Hi. Okay. Very nice to see everybody.
Hi.
Malka, Marilyn, Malka, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good. You
And,
too. Yeah.
Baruch Hashem, and Molly, and Amy, and Sari, and Faith from Apesha. So nice to see you. And Emily, and I think there's more on the other screen.
Sorry's there.
And yeah, and Sari, and Sari, and did I say Amy and Devorah, Baruch Hashem. So does anybody have anything they'd like to say before I begin? I'm going to close this door. It's a little noisy. No? Okay, good. So I will begin. Do I need to mute? Okay, so good. So I like to start out every time by saying 4 things. Number 1, we are in absolutely extraordinary times, and not because of what you read in the newspaper or what you hear on the news, which is extraordinary, but extraordinarily wild. But because the Lubavitch Rebbe told us in 1992 that we are entering the time of the redemption, the moment in history that all of history was waiting for. And the Rebbe, that was one prophecy of the Rebbe, and we've talked in previous sessions about how the Rebbe made many prophecies. He said he voiced many prophecies. They were completely they were so unlikely to happen, and every single one has happened so far. So, if you want, you can listen to other sessions about some of them, some of those remarkable things, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more next week about it. Second thing I like to say is that you and I were handpicked to be at this time, this incredible time in human history, and we have the strength to be here. We are endowed with everything that we need to thrive in this time. The third thing I like to say is that God gave us the tools we need to thrive. He gave us mitzvahs, which are just, they're otherworldly sources of power. They're just incredible things that infuse us with strength. And he gave us the Torah, our guidebook, and he gave us leaders, women and men, extraordinary people who can help us navigate this time, including the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, who told us, by the way, one of his things that he told us is that he hinted broadly many times that he is Mashiach, and he said the grave will have no control over the leader of the generation. So anyway, and if anybody here is a fan of Rebbe stories, the miracle stories that come through the Rebbe now are even more numerous than when we could see him. So, and the last thing I'd like to say is that you and I are helping the process of redemption right now by learning about it, because the Lubavitch Rebbe told us that the fastest way to speed up the redemption spiritually is by learning about it. So, I want to give a very brief review of what we did in session 71. In session 71, we spoke about, back then the parsha was Kitetse, when you go out to war. And the first sentence of that parsha says, when you go out to war and you capture your enemy's captives. And it's an unusual wording. And we know that everything in the Torah, it's true on a literal level, but it's also true on many other levels, spiritual levels. And it's referring to us ourselves. When we go out to war against our enemy, we have to capture his captives. And we spoke about how that, in particular, that refers to the self-sabotaging instinct that God implanted in each one of us. God implanted something called the Yetzer Hara. Sometimes also, it's a component of we have an animal soul and we have a godly soul. And the Yetzer Hara is a component of the animal soul. And the Yetzer Hara part constantly tries to trip us up, constantly tries to keep us from reaching our goals. If somebody has a weight loss goal, the Yetzer will constantly show them, look at that cake, look at that ice cream. If you have a difficulty putting yourself to bed at a reasonable hour, the Yetzer will say, whoa, you got to check this email. You've got to look at your phone. You have to see what this other person said. And soon an hour goes past. Whatever it is, the Yetzer tries to trip you up. He is really, so what does this thing capture? It captures captives. He is really our friend, because if you see how the Yetzer.
Are you there?
What?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
If you see how how he operates and you incorporate his methods, it's an incredible tool for succeeding yourself. So we mentioned a little bit like the Yetzer Hara is never discouraged. The Yetzer Hara constantly innovates new things. The Yetzer Hara it gets up early, it says, in order to plan the day, how he's going to get you. So when we do those things in our battle with the Yetzer Hara, we are incredibly successful. So I wanted to say that I saw this cute little thing, thing about the Rebbe, what the Rebbe said about the Yetzer Hara. And of course, the Rebbe says it's so much better than I do. So there was a guy who came to the Rebbe, a young man, and he wanted to tell he told the Rebbe how important self-expression is to him. You know, it's important to all of us, but how important self-expression is everything. And he said, you know, Rebbe, I'm going to tell you the truth. I can't stand following any rules, not one. I can't stand anybody telling me what to do. I have such a powerful streak of anarchy in me. And he expected a lecture from the Rebbe. And instead, he sees the Rebbe smiling, and he's got smiling eyes. And the Rebbe says, "Don't we all?" And the Rebbe said, "That instinct, that anarchic, I don't know how you would pronounce that word. That streak of anarchy. You know what it is? It's called the animal soul, and it is the reason we came down here. The reason each one of our souls came down to this world is to harness the unbelievable energy of the animal soul, which has a lot more energy than the godly soul. And our job is to harness that energy and use it for the good. So anyway, I thought that was a very good explanation of what the Yetzer Hara is. So I want to go into something different tonight. And I want to say, I'm going to talk about what I think, at least at this moment, what I think is the most powerful technique for faith and calm that I've been using lately. You know, I have a ton of techniques. Partly the reason is I cannot stand being depressed, and I have a very low tolerance for these things. And so over the years, I have, I've had a lot of challenges in life, and you know, maybe not compared to some people that I know, but I've had a good number, and so I constantly have to, in order to maintain my happiness, I have to come up with different techniques. I mean, I've come up with different techniques, Jewish techniques. And we spoke about it a little bit before, that when I focus on what Hashem is doing to me and what Hashem is not doing to me, it's a negative way. When I think, Hashem is not doing this for me, Hashem is not doing that for me, and look what he did to me, look what he did to me now. It's a surefire recipe to go straight down the tubes. And the technique that I want to speak about tonight, and we spoke about it before, is the most extraordinary technique is to take your eyes off what Hashem is doing to you and not doing to you, and put your eyes on your own plate. What am I doing to me, and what am I not doing to me? And I've never seen this anywhere, but after years of this, I am absolutely convinced that my happiness is predicated more on what I'm doing to myself and what I'm not doing to myself than what God is doing to me and what God is not doing to me. If there's God, everything that comes into my life is from Hashem. I like to call Hashem the guardian of my life, but I'm the custodian of my life. If I don't brush my teeth, Hashem's not going to brush my teeth for me. If I don't put myself to bed at a reasonable hour, Hashem, most of the time he doesn't intervene. He doesn't like knock me out on the living room floor. He lets me be the custodian. And so when so in recent weeks, I had a plethora of things happen to me that I didn't like. A whole, it was winter, I would say a snowstorm. I had a tornado of things that I didn't like. And it was really affecting me. I didn't know which of the bad things to concentrate on, which of the bad things to try and remedy first. And I was, and I became more and more swept up into what is God doing to me? What is God doing? Does he want my classes to be so fresh every week? I have to work so hard on Faith and Calm. And then all of a sudden I remembered this, and I said, Shlomo, you just get your eyes off of Hashem. Put your eyes on you. What are you not doing for yourself? And there's a classic thing that I've had difficulty for years, years. And that's putting myself to bed at a proper hour. And so I decided, you know what? It's almost back to school for me. And school begins at the end of August for me. And when I made this resolution, I had 13 days left to school. And I said, for 13 days, you are putting yourself, except for Shabbos and Saturday night, which I can't control so much because I have guests in my house. But every other night of the week, you are putting yourself to bed at 9:30, preferably, and 9:45 at the latest. And there is no excuses. You gotta watch that clock. There are no excuses. You remember Yehezkel Shimon spoke in a previous week about the power of building your malchus. Malchus means building your kingly aspect or your queenly aspect in you. And he said, one great way to do this is to make a plan for something that you're going to do and then follow up and actually do it. So I'm happy to report that I've been putting myself, after years of failure, don't know why, Hashem is being kind to me and helping me. I've been putting myself to bed 9:30, 9:30, 9:30, 9:30. And I cannot tell you what it does for a person's happiness. It fixes your relationship with Hashem like that. No matter what Hashem is doing, it fixes your relationship, because when you trust yourself to take care of yourself, somehow you're ready to trust Hashem that he's also going to take care of you. I don't really know the connection, but I know after years of this, after years of seeing that when I'm better and taking care of myself, my happiness surges and my trust in Hashem surges. When I don't trust this one here, when I'm constantly not living up to what I should be doing for myself or other people, but basically mostly myself, then I don't trust Hashem either. It's like we're Siamese twins. If I trust myself, I trust God. If I don't trust myself, I don't trust God. And it starts with this one. It doesn't start with Hashem. It starts with what this one is doing. So I want to say that there's another aspect. I talked about what you're doing with yourself. It's interesting that the number one principle of Judaism is, somebody once asked, I think it was Hillel, the sage Hillel, if you have to summarize Judaism on one foot, what would you say? And he said, that which is hateful to you, don't do to somebody else. That's also a tremendous aid to faith and calm, because we feel very bad. We have bad habits. All of us have bad habits. We have bad habits in how we treat other people. And, we're all fine human beings, but we all have some kind of thing that we work on it with ourselves and with other people. So I've also been working on that very hard. And, I've known for years something that I don't like, and I've been working on it for years, but I don't know what it is. Elul, we're in the special time of Elul, and Elul, we have, as we said in a previous session, in this month, the month before Rosh Hashanah, God's 13 attributes of mercy are shining down on the world. And it means that things that were difficult for us, if we put in an effort in Elul, then if we put in an effort in Elul, we will go farther. We compared it to the analogy of a moving sidewalk. When you walk on the regular ground, you only go so far, but Elul is like that moving sidewalk in an airport. With those same steps that you would have made otherwise, you're going to go much farther. So I'll tell you my negative thing, and I think it's something that maybe other people have as well. So there are people that you get so comfortable with, you like them so much, you love them so much, and you take, this is what you comment on their behavior when they're not doing things for themselves that they should be doing. And it's really if the person is an adult I'm not talking about a parent and a kid, but if the person is an adult, it's very reductionary, when you comment on their behavior. So I have a friend who I feel destroys her life all the time. And for years I've commented on her behavior, and it doesn't get me anywhere, and it doesn't really get her anywhere. And maybe once in a while she incorporates something that I tell her, but it doesn't really help her. And so I decided, you're not going anywhere with this, just stop it. And so I've been stopping it. And also there's one other person that, when you comment on somebody's behavior, it's almost like a superior thing. So, and we have to go and it happens very often in families. Families feel very, very free in commenting on each other, and it's really not a nice thing to do. I'll tell you a little story about somebody who, this principle about just don't hurt another Jew. There's a delicious story with somebody named the Chazon Ish. He was a big sage, lived in Israel in our times, but the last century, let's say that, not so long ago. And he was big on this principle about just don't hurt another Jew. That's the number one principle in Judaism. And when he was a very old man, he went to be Menachem Avel. That means that somebody lost a relative and they were in mourning, and he went to do the mitzvah of comforting somebody who was in mourning. And Israel, they have stairs. They don't have elevators in all sorts of places. And so he had a younger student who would be his companion, who would help him. He was an old man. And he walked up many, many flights to do this mitzvah of, because the person was on the third floor or something like that, the person he had to visit. And the other person went with him slowly up the stairs. It was extremely painful for the Chazon Ish to go up the stairs. And he went slowly and with great difficulty. And he got to the flight that he had to go to. And all of a sudden, he flew down the stairs like a 7-year-old. He flew down the stairs like a 7-year-old. And his companion flew after him. He said, "Rebbe, what's going on? What's going on? What did you do? How did you get this energy? What did you do?" And he said, "When we got up to that floor, I heard that his neighbor was screaming at his wife. And the neighbor sounded like he was going to come out of the apartment. And how embarrassed that person would be if he saw me in the hallway. He'd be so embarrassed." So he flew down, an old elderly man flew down 3 flights of stairs, not to embarrass somebody who you could embarrass, not somebody who's not being a saint. But it was so ingrained in him that you do not hurt another Jew, that's what he did. So anyway, the more we don't hurt ourselves and the more we don't hurt others, our happiness will soar, our faith in life and our faith in ourselves and our faith in Hashem. I want to end with one little story. And we talked in the past about, the Thank You Hashem movement.
Hello.
And we talked in the past about the Thank You Hashem movement. And we mentioned that in the Thank You Hashem movement, it's not only a big deal to thank Hashem for the good things, that when you start to thank Hashem for the good things, you start to become aware of how much he's taken care of you. It's just mind-boggling when you start listing all the little things. Look, I'm breathing. I can breathe again. Look, I can see still. Look, I can hear out of both ears. It really is a tremendous boost for faith in life. So, but in the Thank You Hashem movement, there's also the concept of thanking Hashem for the bad stuff, because everything comes from Hashem. And if that's true, and it is true, this is what we know, that everything comes from Hashem, the bad stuff is also good. We just can't, at the time it happens, we can't conceive of how this could possibly be good. In fact, Tanya tells us that Hashem has 4 letters in his name, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And the first, and all the good stuff, the seemingly good stuff, the easily good stuff in life, I got the job, I got the raise, this person was nice to me after not being nice to me, all that stuff that is easily, you can easily apprehend that it's good, all that comes from the bottom two letters, the lower, the last two letters of Hashem's name. And the good stuff comes from the Yud and the Hey. Yud and the Hey is a higher level, and it's such a high level of goodness that it can't come down to this world in an easily recognizable form. But it is good, and it's even better than the other stuff. It's just that we don't recognize it. But if you recognize it as good, then we're told, and it happens, that if you recognize it as good, then the disguise falls away. So anyway, there's this Hasidic lady that I like to listen to. She lives in Monsey, New York, and her name is Mindy Feldman. Not a Lubavitcher. She has a one of those delicious Yiddish accents, and so she was telling a story. She turned around her life. She used to be the most nervous wreck, and somebody gave her Rabbi Shalom Arush's book, Say Thank You and See Miracles, and she turned around her life, and her entire family turned around with her, and they thank Hashem copiously for everything, including the bad stuff. So, and they're incredibly happy now and incredibly calm. So she was telling a story that one of her daughters has a recurrent problem with ingrown toenails. And because his daughter had, they would go to the podiatrist, whatever, and the podiatrist would take care of it. But one time the podiatrist, it was a horrible experience, and the daughter didn't want to go back. So Mindy became an expert at helping her daughter with her ingrown toenails. But one time it was so bad, it was so deep and so infected that she knew that she had to take her to the podiatrist. So they went to the podiatrist, and they wanted, Mindy wanted, there's a certain procedure that is a permanent cure. And so Mindy was hoping that that's what they would do. And she got to the doctor's office, and when they saw the doctor said, no, you have to schedule a much longer appointment for that procedure. I can't do that. Well, I can help you a little bit, but I can't do it. And he looked at the daughter's foot, and he said, oh, this is so deep and so swollen. He said, I have to give you an injection in the toe and then work on it. And both Mindy knows from her own experience, and the daughter knows, that the injection is horrendous. It is so painful. And the daughter screamed, and she started crying, no. And so the doctor said, okay, I won't do an injection. I'm going to spray it with something cooling, and then I'll try and work on it. And so he sprayed it with something cooling, and he made a little visual barrier between the daughter and her foot, so she couldn't see what the doctor was doing. And Mindy held her young daughter's hand throughout. And she said to her daughter, now it's our time. Let's thank Hashem for this ingrown toenail. Let's thank him. Let's say, thank you, Hashem, for this ingrown toenail, because if it's from you, it's good. And so what did they do? They held hands and they said, thank you, Hashem, for the ingrown toenail. Help! 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 And a couple of minutes later, the doctor said, it's done. And the daughter was unaware of anything. It was totally fixed, and it went very easily. So we have to remember to thank Hashem not only for the good stuff, but for the tests that He sends us, and may all of our tests become resolved quickly, and may we see the good in all of them. So I'm going to turn off the recorder, and if anybody has any questions, I would love to hear them.